Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you the final episode of What If Naruto was born in the Uzumaki clan. I hope you guys enjoyed this series, and thank you for all of your help and your support. Thank you all guys. And don't be sad, because you know, as usual, new series are going to be out soon for you guys to enjoy. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy this final episode. And later on, I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto was raised in the Hyuga clan. And also over on Anime King 2, I'm going to be posting What If Naruto pushed himself to his limit. So stay in tune for those, and I hope you guys enjoy. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support, and yeah, without further ado, let's begin this new episode. So, the last time we left off, Orochimaru was talking to the Fire Daimyo as he want more man, as Orochimaru had a plan, as the Fire Daimyo asked if it would work, because if this fail and he end up doing something stupid like Shikaku did, he will have his head. But Orochimaru didn't care about this arrogant fool, because what he was planning, it was surely going to be a success. Some time later, the Hidden Stone got the news from Orochimaru, well, Onki. For Orochimaru planned to work their army had to charge forward in 2 days, straight towards the enemy forces and face off against them. See no other way out of this, because Daibatsu had an army blocking his way back to the Hidden Stone. Onki decided to stand up and fight. Meanwhile, back with Naruto, Naruto was talking with Akainu, as he told her who her real father was, and that he told her that he banned the custom of bastards, and he told her everything that he wanted to do. What he wanted to do with her and Konan, as she didn't like the idea, to just say. She loved him, but she didn't want to spend her life knowing that one day one of them might resent each other, as she told him to choose who he loved the most. But seeing that he was going to hurt, she just couldn't be a part of this. She knew that one day one of them might resent each other. One day something will happen, and she just doesn't want to hurt him in any way possible. So she went off, leaving behind a broken Naruto. As the 2 days passed, Naruto got the information, as him, Konan, and the others set out, as he told Konan what happened, as she was feeling relief that she could be with Naruto alone, but she could see it in his eyes. So she sent back a clone to talk to Akainu, as Akainu asked her what the hell does she want, as she told her if she don't go along with it, she know that it's hard, but it will break up their little team that they have, because things that have to deal with emotions that he don't like, he will eventually kick her from his life completely. He will just try to avoid her in every way possible, and then Nagato is going to get angry, and then things are going to be bad. So she told her to think over it, because Konan didn't matter what, if she was there or not, she would still love Naruto as well. And with that, she headed off. Arrived in the battlefield, Naruto saw that war was already raging, as they headed down there, as they faced off against a 4-tailed monkey, as Naruto and the others trapped it in the underworld swamp. But then Onki came there with this particle style jutsu and freed the monkey, as he knocked away the Kazekage and also Hanzo, as Naruto saw Onki flying up there. Onki then remembered when the Kirin ninjas were about to kill the Uzumaki back then. They were torturing the man, so Onki just went over to deliver the final blow. But the man then told him that Uzu will have justice, because when he see his eyes, he will understand. Now Onki was understanding fully, as he was looking into Naruto's eyes. But no more talk. It was time for the battle to begin. So yeah guys, that was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Dust release. Detachment of the primitive world. Pillar. Naruto had to burst into dark smoke to evade the attack that Oniki released. Beneath him, the Union army was already charging to meet the stone forces. As Naruto could only hope that he could handle himself under Hanzo's command because he couldn't help them right now. He was planning on killing Oniki first. The beast was about to form another tail beast bomb though, but Naruto knew that he could not allow that, so he extended his hand towards the beast. Konan saw what Naruto was focused on, and Oniki saw the same thing. As he dived towards Naruto, but Konan started to fire paper bombs at him, but the man started to weave through them and flying above them. As he started to fire off dust release attacks at her, but Konan was flying gracefully and avoiding each and every one of them. His eyes searched for Naruto across the battlefield. Impossible, Oniki said, as he watched the Jinchuriki start to shrink in size. As Naruto was walking towards it, was the boy able to suppress the turn Jinchuriki? No, Roshi was one of the strongest men that Oniki knew, and he would not give over control so easily. Then how? How was this possible? Whatever the boy was doing, he either harmed the beast inside Roshi, or the tail beast was supporting Naruto Uzumaki. As Oniki cursed as this damn Kunoichi was in his way, he unleashed several large boulders that let them fall towards Konan, as she had to slide and flip right through them. As Oniki used a chance, he dived straight towards Naruto as fast as he possibly could. The boy was in a trance, perhaps his consciousness was entwined with the beast, and now that he was wide open, dust release, detachment of the primitive world. As Oniki fired off his spear straight towards Naruto, this was the end. It was then that Konan fly in the way, as she was trapped in a dome. The dome then exploded inside, disintegrating everything. As Oniki cursed as he saw the real Konan panting, as she used a clone. "Why do you protect him so fiercely, girl?" said Oniki. "What is he to you?" "He's a wolf, and I am his angel," she said. Oniki then saw the look in her eyes. She was in love. Oniki understood now. He knew that Konan would protect him. Despite being on the battlefield, he turned his back towards the enemy and was suppressing the tail beast because he knew that this girl would stand in his way. The foul chakra that surrounded Roshi started to descend straight back into his body, as everything was going back to normal. "Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. And I don't know about my brothers or my sisters, but I promise you this, if a day comes when the wolf of the north need help, I shall answer your call," said Son Goku. As Naruto gave a respectful bow, "Thank you, Son Goku," he said, as he finished talking with the tail beast, who saw him as the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths, the one that would free them all, as the other tail beasts had went to a mountain regions where humans don't really go, as Naruto would seal it off to anyone that will go there except for tail beasts. If they feel like humanity was worthy of their power, they can return one day. Meanwhile, Oniki was frozen. As the giant monkey was less than half of his size, the thing was now kneeling in front of Naruto. Even both armies stopped their bloody fighting to watch his sight. Not one of them could understand how could a monster like that kneel in front of this boy. As Naruto nodded as he drive his sword right through the head. As the thing did not scream or say anything, as the green flame just enveloped him, as he turned to ash. As the Biju chakra flew up in the air and fly off. Oniki was then looking around with shock on his face as his army started to run. As their morale was broken, their Biju had fallen. How could they possibly win this war? Oniki yelled for them to stand their ground. Barely half of them stopped, but the rest of them kept on running. Disappointed and heartbreaking over such a betrayal, Tsuchikage realized it was truly over now. His nation. Half of his army was barely bandits and thugs and mercenaries supplied by the daimyo. So they would hesitate to run or flee. They did not really care about the hidden stone if it fall. He looked at the battlefield to see his forces that were still standing. They were being surrounded by Hanzo and this man of the Union. "You really don't understand, do you, Tsuchikage?" said Konan. "How?" said Oniki. "Because he made us all love him. All he wanted to do in life is look after his loved ones, his family, and to protect everyone and give a better future. That is why we will never fall. We will never run. We will always stand by his side. This world is tired of constant war over and over. And he's here. We're all here to end it." "It's over," said Naruto as he stepped forward. He smiled at Konan for watching his back. "Let's end this, Tsuchikage." As Konan flew back behind him, it was time for him to fight now. as Naruto raced towards Onki in the form of dark smoke. Onki raised his hand and started to form its dust release when a third form kunai was launched from the smoke. Realizing danger, he quickly pointed towards the kunai. He fired off a dust release, but the kunai multiplied into dozen more replicas all over, all of which had sailed past him. Onki saw rapid dark flashes all around him, but it was too late as he felt something rip through his throat, his chest, his legs, and his hands. Those dark flashes were happening rapid as he got slashed all over his body. Oniki grunted and coughed up blood in pain before he felt a stab right through the heart. He coughed blood as Naruto appeared in front of him in the form of dark smoke. For Lord Third, Naruto said. Onki's eyes went wide. How could this boy know that he was the one who killed the previous Uzumaki? But it doesn't matter now. Do you think your ideals will truly create a future? This is a ninja world, boy. I know that, Hisukage, said Naruto. You're so young and naive. You won't change anything, said Oniki. Maybe, but it's our time now. You're an old geezer. Die with honor already. Oniki sighed as he coughed up blood. My people, don't make them pay for my mistakes, he said. It hurt his pride to ask such a thing. But he couldn't do anything right now, he was going to die. No innocence shall be harmed, and your nation shall not be burned. I promise, said Naruto. A man of honor, huh? I never thought I'll see one. Oniki took his last words as he collapsed dead. As Naruto looked at Oniki, this man was better than the Mizukage or the Raikage. Oniki gave Tatsuru a merciful death even though the others wanted to torture him. And that was something Naruto was grateful for. Konan then landed. As she placed a hand on his shoulder as he smiled at her. Thank you for watching my back, he said. Of course, she said. We will kill all the soldiers, Naruto said. I cannot forgive them for harming my people. But for the civilian fighters and the mercenaries who fled, let them go. What? Said Konan. None of those men and women killed my people. It was the stone ninjas and they will pay for their crimes, Naruto said. But I will not butcher every civilian fighter for trying to defend their nation. They was just trying to defend their home. As Konan was wondering about the future, maybe the civilian fighters would hide now, but what about the future if they became a threat? Sometimes she could just not understand Naruto. Time skip. 2 days later, Nagato Uzumaki heard the thunderous cheers as his friend was back. Word had reached him this morning of the Hidden Stone complete defeat by Naruto's hands. With Yudhishthira and his entire army killed, the land of Earth was now being invaded by the Union forces under Lord Orima's command, while Naruto was coming back to finish the last part of his war. As Nagato smiled when he saw Naruto being carried on the Union's shoulders, there was a faint blush on his face as he was still not able to take all this praise. He was not really socialized with so many people. As Naruto was placed on the ground, the moment he was placed on the ground, ghosts smashed right into him. As Naruto ruffled the wolf, he then looked up as he froze. As he picked up himself, he held out his arms as Kushina jumped right into his arms as she hugged him tightly. There was a lot of sacrifice for this chance, but he was glad, he was happy, he was delighted to see his mother, as she was also cried, holding him in her arms, squeezing him tight as he hugged her back. As Naruto did not cry while he trusted his man. He was an assassin after all, known to control his emotions, so he just held her as she cried in his arms. I thought I lost you, she said. I am here, mother. You're safe now, he said, rubbing her back. As Kushina broke the hug and looked at her son, she looked at the crown on his head, as she knew the true weight that it bared on her 16-year-old son's shoulders. He was barely 16 and already a king. She wanted to apologize. She couldn't help him, she couldn't save him back then. But she knew that Naruto did not like pity, not even from her. So she asked him a question. Where do we go from here? He simply smiled. There is only one place we can go, mother. Home. As she started to cry again hearing that. As Kushina looked up and saw Naruto smiling, as he smiled to the blue-haired girl that was beside him. As the girl smiled back. As Kushina wondered, could this be? As Konan broke the ice. I am Konan, Kushina-sama. I am glad that you're back with us. Your son and I are... Kushina simply smiled as she looked at her. She cut her off. I leave you for a few weeks. Not only do you become king, but you also gain a girlfriend. As she smiled, seeing Naruto blushing a bit. Treat her nice and respect her. I can see that she's a wonderful girl by just the way she addressed me. And if you ever dishonor her. It was then that Kushina noticed both of them blushing harder than before. Oh, said Kushina. Conan was cut off. No need to explain anything, Conan. It seems the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. As you remember, her and Minato also start getting intimate around this age as well. Mother, Naruto said, blushing at her words. Kushina rolled her eyes and bumped him on the head. Don't mother me, young man. You both are free to live your life. But just don't hurt each other or move too fast. The both of them looked at each other and smiled, before they turned towards Kushina. Don't worry, mother, said Naruto, I love her, and I'm going to marry her. As Kushina fainted, Conan looked at Naruto. What did I do, Naruto asked. Conan sighed as she made a paper clone, as the clone carried Kushina off. Gods, she could only imagine the ruckus that Kushina was going to cause when she wake up at her son's declaration. Granted, the both of them agreed to do this, but the way he just revealed it was stupid. As Nagato walked up to Naruto, we need to talk, he said. Moments later, what, said Naruto as he slammed his hand on the table. You just let her go like that? We needed more people to scout the area. She said she had to clear her mind. So she had to go do it at the borders to find out what is going on in Konoha. You know what that man is capable of. And she volunteered herself. She threatened to do it all alone, so I had to give her the man so she could go. Foolish girl, said Naruto to himself. Why are you so troubled, asked Nagato. I have fought great man and madman, but Orochimaru, there is just something about him. I have seen the wicked and the evilness in his eyes. He will go and stop at no length to get what he desires. Don't tell me you're afraid of him, said Nagato in shock. It is fear that made man brave, Nagato, and stand their ground. What do we do then, said Nagato, as he was now scared for Kano's safety even more. Assemble the man. I will lead them personally and get that stupid girl back. You love her, don't you, said Nagato. As Naruto sighed, but he didn't smile. Yes, he said. No matter how she had hurt him, no matter their outlooks, how different they are in life, he will always be there for her no matter what. Many of the men were already wounded and tired, so they were rallying up the ones that were ready to march, if anything. As Naruto went and dealt with another matter. That is not necessary, said Tsunade as he bowed in front of her. No, you deserve it, after all your sacrifice, and what you have done for me, said Naruto. Tsunade could only weakly nod as a price that she had paid for her decision haunted her again. So what now, asked Tsunade. All Konoha ninja and Fire Nation citizens who rise up against the Union will put to death, but those who surrender will not be harmed. As for your team, their family shall be spared, and allowed to live with their wealth and standing in the society. There are many leaders amongst the Union who want to see your nation destroyed, but I will not allow it. Despite everything that has happened, Naruto said. You really mean that, said Tsunade, as she was quite surprised. On my honor, I am going to bring the South into the Union with necessary changes, and I intend to let you rule the Land of Fire, just as I promised. She was surprised. She didn't expect him to continue with that promise after what happened at Castle Storm. Naruto, the other leaders won't allow that. Despite what Tsunade had done and kept her word, said Nagato. Tsunade slumped down as she knew the others wanted Konoha, the entire Fire Nation, to burn. There is a solution to that problem, said Naruto. Nagato is a Union leader and is quite respected by the other leaders, and Tsunade-sama is respected by the nation's citizens. So I know the only way that we can keep the peace between the Union and the South. I take it that this is something that neither she or I will like, said Nagato. What is it, asked Tsunade. You two can marry each other, said Naruto. As neither of them said anything, they didn't even flinch. Naruto, Nagato hesitated. While Tsunade was beautiful and a good woman, she was at least in her 30s right now. Twice his age. More than that, there was no affection between them. Hell, they did not even know each other. But Tsunade spoke. Dan gave his life so the people of my nation could have a better future and not a massacre. That cannot happen unless we have peace. What you propose is logical but heartless. It will keep my people in check and also the Union leaders. Knowing Nagato is ruling by my side as an equal, I will agree to this, for the sake of my people, she said. But I have only loved one man in my life, and that will never change, she said in a calm voice. Nagato looked at her as she felt sad, because there would be no love or anything like that there. As a Union leader, I have to make sacrifices on my own, he said. This world that we are created is my dream, and I will accept it. I promise you, Tsunade-sama, I shall be irrespective and supportive of you. I shall honor you, and perhaps together we can finally bring peace to the South. And you will never have to even love me or do anything that you don't want. I promise, he said. As Tsunade respected his words greatly, to sacrifice to hold up his future and protect his dreams. Sometime later, Konan came in the room and had to comfort Naruto. Nagato was his best friend, his brother. And to put him to this fate, he didn't like it one bit. As Naruto and his 700 Union soldiers, along with Domino's squad, all head out. Konan didn't know why, but she felt a darkness, a evil, waiting for them to consume them. Time skip. Ghost was the only one on the ground as he was sniffing. He looked up at Naruto as Naruto gave a signal. As the mans were dashing through the tree. It was currently night time, as they were looking for Akeno and her squad. As Naruto felt a sinking feeling in his heart. They received information that Akeno was last seen in his spot, but they weren't here. As Naruto then saw something, as he took off in dark smoke, as the group followed behind him. As Nagato and the others came up behind him as well, yet when they arrived they froze. Bodies. Nagato grimaced as he saw the Union armor and uniform on the soldiers lying on the ground, unmoving, not a single breath coming from them despite the cold night. The others went up to see if there were any traps or any soldiers ahead, but there were none. As they heard moving in the bushes, as they saw a Union soldier, as Kiyotsuki went up there. As Naruto saw her silver hair, the amount of fear that he felt from her, he wondered, what has she seen? Kiyotsuki was about to gasp, but she placed a hand over his mouth, stopping him. As she made signals with her hand. As Akeno was scared, she was livid, she was terrified. As she pleaded for them to run, just by looking in her eyes. As Naruto gave the retreat to move back. It was then the man on the ground. They start to rise up the dead bodies, as they start to morph into monsters. Akeno grabbed onto Kiyotsuki and pulled him back in the bushes, dragging him away. Ghost started to grow dangerously as these things were getting back up with a foul, strange chakra leaking from them. Their wild eyes searched around for any nearby prey. Even Ghost had to move away before the creatures could catch sight of him. That monster, Naruto thought. He had known about Orochimaru's madness, the evil, the wickedness that was in his eyes. No man had done something so humane. As Naruto noticed, once they stepped away from the shadows into the moonlight, the dark corrupted chakra started to go back to their bodies. As Naruto went back towards his forces silently, he needed answers, and only one person could give it to him. They had safely returned to their camp by midnight. As they went quietly, Akeno did not say a single word, and she just kept on running until they reached the camp, until she collapsed from exhaustion. As Naruto asked if Yu Kunoichi to look after her and inform him as soon as she woke up. Judging from what he has seen so far, Akeno was probably the only survivor. That had been some time ago, as he was currently sitting down by her bed, holding her cold arms in his warm ones. The enemy was up to something very dangerous, he could feel it. As seeing what Orochimaru have right now, the war was getting more risky. As he glanced at his friends, all of them in the room, with grim looks on their faces. Naruto, is that you? Naruto snapped his head down. Yeah, I'm here. You're not a dream? Akeno asked. He felt so sad hearing her terrified voice. Just what did she see? No, I'm not a dream, he said, brushing away her hair. You're safe now amongst your friends. As she looked around to see her teammates, all of them gave her encouraging smiles as Nagato came across and grasped her free hand. She teared up on seeing all of them had come for her and they saved her, because if they hadn't, as she shivered, remembering what she saw. Look at me. She looked into his eyes. You're Uzumaki from the north. You can do this, Naruto said. What happened, Akeno? What did you see? Nagato asked. I saw whole border towns gone. No one was there. Did they leave? Entire towns? Asked Yaiko. No, just gone. I first thought that they evacuated because Yunnan was marching south. But then they all came back. Came back? What do you mean? Kiyotsuki asked. We thought that they were sick with chakra poisoning. But they started to cut down my man and eat them alive. As Naruto, heart felt like it stopped as he heard her words. He had seen flesh tore off the civilian and the Union soldiers and strange seal on their necks. It was unlike anything that he had seen before. The way they reacted to the slightest sound, it was terrifying. We killed thousands of them, but they kept on coming. Only beheading seemed to take them down. And my forces, they were overrun, and they found our platoon. You should rest, Naruto said, as she could not continue anymore. Stay with me, she pleaded. I have to make plans to counter this threat. But he raised his hand and Krita shot a clone. It was not much, but she knew. As Nagato and the boys left the room as Naruto stayed behind with his clone. Naruto, we need to... He leaned down and kissed her, as she kissed him back fully and passionately. Upon breaking the kiss, he smiled at her as she smiled back softly. The next time we see each other, we will talk about that, I promise, he said. As she nodded, as he got up and walked away, after instructing the clone to stay with her and watch over her, she needed a rest. Time skip. As Jiraiya was shocked when he heard what happened. After hearing it from Nagato, Naruto, and everyone else, he realized how far they have fallen. What do you want me to do? Jiraiya asked. Take an advanced strike force, 100 soldiers, and start to clear the towns on the west, southern front. Drive them off to the distance, because we can't afford to waste so much time with them. And if they get here, it will just be a huge setback. Jiraiya nodded as he stepped outside. Kisame, you will lead another advanced strike force of 100 soldiers, and the remainders of Hidan cult and attack the eastern towns. The same rules of engagement shall be applicable. I have already sent Conan a message to assemble our entire army here within 24 hours. The rest of us will launch a massive attack straight through the heart of the land of fire, surprising the enemy by the attack. Speed will have to be the key. We will not rest or relax for a single moment. This will be the ending of this soon. The next morning, Nakano slowly opened her eyes. As Naruto was sitting there, the original, the clone had hummed something silly last night, and it got her to fall asleep. As she smiled at him, as he smiled back at her, she wanted to wake up every day and see that smile. I'm sorry, he said, getting straight to it. Why, she said. He wasn't the one who's supposed to be apologizing. Why was he apologizing? For all the crap I put you through for our entire life. I don't know why you even tolerate someone like me. I guess I had took you for granted, knowing that you stick by me no matter what happens. In doing so, I forgot about how you feel in your own principles of life. I even selfishly asked you to share my love with someone else. I didn't even realize how wrong that was back then. I foolishly thought that since you always supported me, you do the same in that matter. And for that I'm really sorry, he said. I am a selfish man, Akino Uzumaki. But it is true, all I wanted was for you to be happy, for you to achieve your dreams, for you to live, and be peaceful. But I thought that happiness depended on me. But you are much stronger than that. Do as you please, he said. Live, be happy, be loud, be annoying, be emotional, be free. And know whatever happens, I'll always love you. As he got up and started to walk away, that was the right thing to do. She was safe and sound. He will make sure she lived the happy life that she deserved. Naruto. He slowly turned around. Bam! A flower base smashed right in his head. Ouch, he moaned. As Akino was in front of him, her hair flying wildly in the air as he was angry. You moron, couldn't you have said something like this the first time? As he threw a chair at him this time as he dodged. Have you lost it, you crazy woman, he asked. Why was she so angry in the first place? He said something nice, so what? He was snapped from his thoughts and a water bottle slammed in his face. Crazy? Yes, she said right in front of him. I am definitely crazy and a moron for falling in love with someone like you. You're lucky my hair is silver because you would have made them white for all your antics these years with the amount of stress. Half of the time you're a brute and half of the time you're an asshole. And the one time when you proposed to me you talk about political schemes and personal benefit like it was a goddamn trading deal, you idiot, she said. But it is true. What was that? She snapped at him. Oh, nothing, he said, waving his arms. You truly don't know how to talk to people, much less propose to someone. Would it hurt to be this romantic in your words instead of spamming out all that crap that you did before, you idiot? You brain dead idiot? Look at me, she said as she pinched him on the arm as he looked up. I want to eat ice cream and ramen every day. Huh? He said dumbly as she pinched him again. Stop that, he said. Shut up and listen, king, she said in a mocking tone. I want to go out on long walks and talk about everything at night. I want to go on short and long trips every twice a month. And I want to buy good dresses and start a medical hospital of our own to teach our people good healing arts. Do you understand? He blinked as he scratched the back of his head. Did she have to hit him so hard for all these demands? Yeah, he said. Naruto, she said. Yes? Just kiss me already, she said. His mind spin. How did she went from cursing, mocking, yelling and hitting to this? She's one really crazy woman, isn't she? As she pulled him, as the both of them locked their lips together, sharing a passionate kiss. When she told him to choose, she knew that he was going to choose Conan. She said harsh words to him back there because she wanted him to be happy with Conan, despite her feelings. But yet still he came back for her despite her words. He saved her. All her doubts about fighting for his love, his entire life, it all vanished when he wished for her happiness over his own. It all vanished right there. As she smiled, she looked at him with a big smile on her face, as he then started to kiss her more fiercely. What they did not hear was Nagato right outside the tent. As he smiled and looked at the three boys, Yaiko, Deibatsu, and Kiyosuke, as he held out his hand, as they all paid him. As he smiled, finally he said. 2 days later, Naruto sat up in his bed, as Akino was beside him naked. It felt strange to see her like this, but it was a good feeling. Everything was finally in place. His mother was back. His village was safe. So was the north. His clan lived on. His brother. Everything was going well. But still, he had an upcoming conflict to deal with. And for the future, he would make sure that all of that is solved. As Naruto got everything, as he also had a forbidden scroll that he was warned by one of the elders not to use. But for the future, he has to do it. He has to use this scroll. Orochimaru has not attacked. Everything was ready, his army was all set up. But Orochimaru was playing quiet. Later on that day, tonight, said Naruto, as he was with his soldiers, everyone was there. Jiraiya and Kisame are in retreat. They managed to caught sight of the army approaching. How much, said the Kazekage. Thousands, said Naruto. The group was surprised. They started to talk. How could Konoha have that much when their forces were slaughtered? But Naruto leaked some killing intent to make them go quiet. We do not know who they are, nor do we have the time to find out. We have 20,000 soldiers depending on us for leadership, and we will not fail them. Do you all understand, Naruto asked? We do, Mifune assured him. Good, now I plan to divide our forces. The Kazekage will command the left flank, the Mizukage the right. The center with the last 6,000 will be headed by Mifune, while Nagato will hold the rear with the last 2,000 soldiers, ready to help any side that looked to be in trouble. Konan and Hitsuki, you both shall handle our aerial troops. Your objective will be to take out any dangerous enemies and warriors. Yaiko and Deibatsu shall be leading the valiant guards, while I, Hanzo, Galtia, Tsunade, Kisame, and Jiraiya shall confront Orochimaru, as no one objected anything. It took an hour, but Konan finally found him after the meeting. They could not blitzkrieg the enemy by force their way inside, because it took 2 days to get here. As that was her fault for not rushing even faster with the army. Yet Naruto never snapped at her or the other leaders for their failure. As she saw him as she approached him. What happened, she said, seeing him frowning. The monsters, they were turned that way by Orochimaru using some kind of cursed seal. Jiraiya and Kisame discovered that when they observed the bodies of the man that they had to kill. Can they be saved? Some way to reverse the seal and bring those innocents back. His silence was all that she needed to hear, as she saw him shaking in anger, clenching his fists. Naruto, she said, I understand war, I understand killing. My own hands are stained with the blood of the innocents, but this. He placed a hand on her shoulder, as she saw the unending hatred that he had for that man Orochimaru. Don't lose your cool, she said, as few of the soldiers were backing away from his dangerous killing intent. His anger vanished, his shoulder slumped. She saw a blind desire to murder Orochimaru no matter the cost. Kill him, she said, but do not lose yourself. We need you. As she knew that man like Danzo and Orochimaru always brought out the darkness in him. We, he said. All of us, our friends, our comrades, our family. His gaze softened a bit. She then hugged him. All I want is for you to be happy, she said. So you can live the peaceful world that you're going to create, she said. as she held him tight. "Thank you for loving me, Conan," he said. "And I will always love you no matter what," she said as she kissed him. Moments later, Kushna was now by herself. Something was wrong. Her son just came to visit her. The way he spoke, the way he carried himself. She didn't know what it was, but something was wrong. He thanked her for everything that she has done. As she felt some feel in her heart, like something was going to happen. He was called by one of the men. By the time she snapped out of her feelings and her thoughts, she rushed outside to find him, but he was already gone. As Kisame was the one who called over Naruto, he did it by Naruto orders, because he knew that Kushina was about to ask him a bunch of questions. Kisame and Hanzo was the only ones that really knew what Naruto had on his mind. "Are you really sure about this?" asked Kisame. "We will cross that bridge when we get there, but I'm keeping all options open for now," he said. "Maybe you're overestimating him," said Kisame. "Despite all his skills, Orochimaru was simply just a man, and a man can be killed. No, I know him, even better than any one of you, for he and I are monsters of darkness, and we walk the path of madness. I'll just chop his head off and prove you wrong," said Kisame. Naruto chuckled. That would be a great twist. Akino was then coming towards him with a look on her face that made Kisame back away. "Where are you going?" Naruto asked. "That woman is really troublesome," said Kisame. "Didn't you swear to protect my life against anything?" asked Naruto. "Change of contract terms," said Kisame. As he walked off. "Traitor," said Naruto. "I want to fight beside you," said Akino. "No," said Naruto flatly. "But I can help," she said. "I know," he said. "Then why won't you let me help you?" He did not say anything, he just looked at her. "Is there something wrong?" she asked. "No, I want you to use your skills where they are best suitable. You are a skilled fighter and can handle yourself in a battle quite well. But you'll be able to save so many more lives with your medical ninjutsu," he said. As she looked down, "I want to help you," she said. "I already lost you once. He lifted up her chin as he kissed her. She relaxed into his touch as she kissed him back. As he broke the kiss, "I'll be careful," he said. "And I'll have Snavi to heal me if I get injured," he explained, making her scoff. "That old hag would probably suffocate you with her massive tits," she said, as Naruto pinched her, as she yelled a bit. "Language woman. You have quite the potty mouth," he said. Instead of getting angry, she just laughed, as she then hugged him tight, wanting to make this moment last until as long as possible. Time skip. The group was ready, as Yaiko was looking over at Naruto. It was time for them to go to war. The sensory ninjas were yelling out warning as the ground was shaking. As Yaiko unleashed his sword, as his friends around him all unleashed weapons as well. They heard cannibalistic growls coming, as Yaiko saw those demonic eyes from the forest. Those eyes full of just pure raw demonic instincts. As Naruto stepped forward, as he looked at the 1,000 in the shadows with a calm gaze. Now, it was as if the sun had just came down from the sky, as the forest exploded. Thousands of explosive tags that were set by the Union. The monsters scream and howl and yell, but the rumblings and the growls became even louder as Naruto raised his hand. "Burn them." Thousands of paper birds under the steady command of Konan and Kietsuke. The newly bombered division started to drop barrels. As all of the barrels dropped, Kietsuke then fired off an arrow as it hit right in the center of one of the barrels. The entire forest erupted in pure green flames. Dozens of Union soldiers were pushed back by the force of the blast. Even their chakra on their feet could not help as they were blown away. The dying monsters were screaming in terrified screams releasing from their throats. But seeing all of them die in relief sigh came from their throats, the Union soldiers. While they knew that they had a battle against them, it was better to go out this way than losing people close to them, meaningless death. It was then a wave of darkness washed over the entire forest, and everything went silent. The darkness was coming towards them. Everything that was being sucked in was never seen again. Even Wolf was growling dangerously that put some of the Union soldiers on nerve. Konan and the other bombers retreated back in the army to avoid the darkness that was spreading everywhere. As Naruto looked at the approaching darkness not moving, Genjutsu, he thought. But this could not be any ordinary Genjutsu, considering the era that it had spread across. It was even powerful enough to prevent him from seeing the engulfed forest. Surprisingly, it stopped at the edge of the forest, 2 kilometers away from the Union forces, and then it started to disappear. As Naruto's eyes widened, the burning forest that was roasting alive was now completely gone, leaving behind bodies and charred remains. The smell was awful and disgusting. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw hundreds of people on strange flying machines coming towards them, and in their hands were some strange weapons. Alarmed, he turned back to his forces, but it was too late as hundreds of kunais came out of the object on their arms, raining down on the Union forces. Few of the fallen kunais were tagged with explosive notes as they ripped apart the Union. Naruto could only watch in horror and shock as the entire front line was being decimated right in front of his eyes. His soldiers tried to deflect them, but they were too fast, as many of them got butchered. In the midst of that, Naruto heard growling as hundreds upon hundreds of those bloodthirsty, cursed warriors came out of the forest with a hungry look in their eye. He unleashed his blade quickly. "Tonight," he said, "we fight. When this night ends, I promise you the Union will stand. We all shall stand." The army was coming towards him, but yet his one talk was able to bolster his army together. "Thousands of our brothers and sisters have defended the Union before, and we will not fail tonight. Follow me," he said. As Naruto headed off along with Yaiko, as thousand roars went off, as the Union soldiers all went off, Konan and Kiatsuki went towards the skies as they went off to face off against the aerial enemy. Konan started to shred them with their paper shurikens, tearing them apart and their machines. Kiatsuki was launching arrows at fast speed, taking down enemies after enemies, but a shadow crashed right into him, knocking him off his paper bird. Kiatsuki, Konan yelled. She watched in horror as a flying ninja showered Kiatsuki in blank point range. Kiatsuki coughed up blood as his eyes went wide, but anger took over as he pulled one of the kunais out of his gut and stabbed it into the ninja's head. Suddenly, the flying machine stopped working as both fighters started to tumble down to their death. Konan flew down to save him, but the dark smoke of engine grabbed him, letting the enemy fall down. As Naruto hopped on the nearest paper bird, as Konan arrived, she gasped as she saw the amount of wounds all over his body and the ones in his vital organs, as she saw Naruto's heartbroken gaze. But Kiatsuki simply chuckled as he coughed more blood. "I guess it's too late to quit as a shinobi," he said, staring at his 2 friends. Konan sobbed with tears from her eyes as she grabbed his hand. All he wanted was for this war to end so he could retire from this violent life, a dream that he will never live to see. "Naruto," he said, "look after them." As he looked at the crying Konan and then glanced back at the ground where their friends were fighting. "I will," Naruto said. "I promise." As he fought back his own tears of rage swirling in his heart, as Kiatsuki looked at him. "Wish I could have opened that archer academy and spend more time with you all. And tell Yaiko to not let that sexy Mizukage go. An ass like that need to be tapped," he said, with a trademark perverted grin. Naruto weakly smiled as he watched Kiatsuki taking his last breath before going still. Konan screamed and tried to shake him awake, but nothing. She then turned with blazing fury in her eyes to kill all of them up there, but then a hand grabbed her. "Calm down. They killed my friend. I'll slaughter them all," she said. "He was my friend too, Konan. I wish I could have spent more time with him, but you need to calm down. If you charge in like this, you'll make a mistake that will lead to your end as well. I have already lost one friend." He gently closed Kiatsuki's eyes. "Please don't let me lose another." She slumped down. "Fight with me," he said. They both flew away from the bird, as it went back to the camp where Akane will keep the body safe. As Naruto started to dash forward, as he started to rip bodies after bodies, tearing them apart, screams could be heard as Konan created 2 paper blades and ripped through them as well, stabbing them. It was a master in the sky as he teared through the enemy forces. After that, Naruto descended down to the land, as Konan was with him as well, as he smelled the blood, the decay everywhere. All order was lost as the Union soldiers were fighting wildly to take out the enemy forces as best they could. He couldn't even see Yaiko or Daibatsu anywhere. "Sound a retreat," he said to Konan. "Naruto, do it," he said, as she saw the look in his eyes as she quickly sounded the retreat. As Naruto landed and stopped right there, "My king," many of them said as he ran past him. "Go," he said, as he did not run. As all the monsters came towards him, he speed through hand sign before slamming his hand on the ground. A red barrier erupted as dozens of the monsters clashed with it, but that was a mistake as they erupted into flames, burnt to their death. As there was a small opening where he stepped inside, ignoring the screen for him to get back and get out of there, as he pulled out his 3-palm kunai. What happened after that was something that no one will forget. Hundreds of 3-palm kunai was scoured over the place. It was a massacre as bodies after bodies littered the ground. As he teared through all of them in a dark flash, the things could barely keep up or even see what was going on. There was not an ounce of dirt, blood, or flesh on him, but he stopped and went down on one knees. He massacred all the forces right here with his own hands. But he then sensed something. As he rushed past 1,000 that he just killed, as he arrived to see hundreds of cursed warriors down, they were ripped to shreds, cut apart. But he saw the one soldier that was there. A large chunk of his neck was eaten away, and his chest was teared out. As Naruto rushed over, as the person collapsed before he could make it, did the soldiers and they but to get away. I tried to buy some time. Yes, they're safe, Naruto said, all of them. Forgive me, I could not defeat them all. No, Yaiko, you fought bravely and led our army. When they needed you the most, you kept your honor. Now let me get you back, so that Kano can heal you. He tried to lift him up, but Yaiko brushed his hand away. Leave it. It's over. We cannot win against such evil. Our union will fall. My village. I failed them all, he whispered, as blood was seeping all over his body. I do not know how, but I swear to you, I will not let them fall no matter what. Our people will not fall. As Yaiko looked into his eyes, as he gave him hope as he smiled. As Naruto fought by the grief, the scream that you want to let out. As Yaiko passed Naruto his sword. Give it to my little brother back home. It is his turn now. I will, Naruto, promise. Making Yaiko smile even more. I'm glad I follow you, my brother, my friend, my king. As Yaiko collapsed down. As Naruto heard shocked gasp behind him, the barrier had fallen. As the group had came back, Daibatsu was comforting a crying Konoha. As him himself, the man felt broken, saddened by this. As Yaiko stayed back, so the soldiers could go ahead when they heard the retreat, because if they didn't hear that, probably all of them would have died. As Mifune and Galatea lowered their head in a respectful bow. Be at peace, son of Fate and Rain, said Hanzo. A horrified Mizukage rushed past all of them as she cradled Yaiko. It was an open fact that the both of them had shared affection between each other. Not a moment later, a monster skilled intent showered over the land, making most of the soldiers collapse to their knees by the force. As Nagato looked over the army, nearly 1,000 were dead. As this feeling, this presence, was making the rest of them shake uncontrollably. As Naruto saw the group stepping out of the forest, the rest of them coming, they were a group of missing names, thugs, mercenaries, and the remaining Konoha forces. They were all combined together. They were barely about half of the Union army, but it was the ones leading this army. Naruto was shocked as he saw the people who should be dead, and leading them was none other than Orochimaru. As Orochimaru had Tobirama, Hoshirama, the Senju brothers. He also had Hiruzen and Sarutobi, but at the forefront was two enemies that would make Naruto mad. Orochimaru! Naruto screamed. Orochimaru smirked when he heard Naruto blood-curdling scream. As Naruto's fist clenched, he was enraged, seeing people that were dear to his heart like that being used in that manner. Hanzo knew and understand why Naruto was so cautious of this man Orochimaru. For that man had brought forward shinobis who could decimate the entire army by himself. The most familiar one being the one, Minato Namikaze, and beside Minato was none other than Obito Uchiha. The ground started to shake as a blast of dark chakra erupted from Naruto's body as he charged. The third 5 Union soldiers watching panic as their king charged along. Was he really going to face those legendary shinobis who were never defeated in battle? Go, Hanzo said, follow your commander. As Hanzo headed off as well, thousands of Union forces stepped forward to raise their own weapons. They didn't know how those dead shinobis were alive and was standing in front of them, but it didn't matter anymore. The King of the North, said Nagato, as the remaining followers charge. Orochimaru was surprised. His enemies, who should be running, shitting themselves, running in fear, they were charging with murder in their eyes. And the one that was leading them had madness in his cold blue eyes. The first chakra chain that smashed straight into Minato and Obito sent them sailing. The ghost of Tobirama flashed in front of Naruto, but he was punched brutally as he was sent sailing away. Even from this distance, Orochimaru could feel the boy's eyes were set on his, as he was coming towards in a mad fury, a rage, as he was blowing anything back away from him. And behind him was a 17,000 strong Union forces. As Naruto landed right in front of Orochimaru's 5, reanimation stepped right in front of him. "You will die here," Orochimaru said behind him. "You insolent brat." "I know," said Naruto. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he saw the same look that the boy had in his eyes when they first met inside the secret lab. "We both are a man of darkness, Orochimaru. You defy the dead, and I have the blood of innocence on my hand. But know this, I don't fear death. Can you say the same? Because if I am dying, I am dragging you along to the deepest pits of hell." As Naruto's eyes turned red like a demon, Orochimaru saw the Union army was close and knew that his forces without these reanimations will be butchered in about an hour. So he raised his hand as the Hokage is blurred out of sight. But Naruto flashed as he brought himself right in front of Tobirama, blocking his blade. Minato flashed right behind Naruto the Rasengan, but that chakra chain came towards, but Minato flashed away. As Naruto had to deflect Hiruzen's staff right into the first Hokage's chest, sending the first Hokage flying away. One brutal kick had Hiruzen sailing away in the opposite direction. As he could see their eyes were dead and lifeless. There was nothing coming from them. The thousands of the Union soldiers descended upon them, ripping through Orochimaru. Normal warriors and bandits and mercenaries, they were nothing. But Naruto wasn't going to show these reanimation corpse anything, any mercy or anything like that. They have already died with honor. As Naruto started to lash out at Tobirama, wilder and angrier than before, Orochimaru was about to join, but Galatea and Hanzo stepped in front of him. As Naruto flipped away from Tobirama, as the man then dashed towards him with incredible speed, rivaling Minato, as he carved right through his body. Naruto coughed blood and saw there was a gaping hole in his upper chest. Did the second Hokage perform Minato's own jutsu? Naruto burst into darkness as he reappeared behind Tobirama, driving his blade right through him. Hellfire ignite, but the man did not scream or say anything, as Naruto slapped a seal on him, so he wouldn't teleport anymore. The man burned in green flames, but he kept on regenerating over and over again. If not for the anti-teleportation seal, they would have disappeared. There is no doubt about it now, this is the Edo Tensei. As you remember, this from Madara memories. As Naruto then realized, Madara thought about this as well, this jutsu that Tobirama was using. He was the one that created it, but it had a weakness. As the battle was raging across, as everyone was keeping the reanimations occupied, leaving Naruto to take care of the madman who started this. As Naruto added a few more seals on Tobirama, keeping him trapped, as he then turned to stop to see Obito. It felt like someone ripped a sword right through his heart as he saw his half-brother staring blankly at him. Obito looked so young with his blank face. He died, betraying his own village, so that Naruto could live with his mother. As Naruto clenched his fist tight, Obito lashed out at him. As he started to shake, his brother would never fall in love, had a full life, have children, and it was because of him. As Obito was going to behead Naruto, but he was shaken, but the blade was blocked, as Nagato was one that blocked the blade. As Daibatsu then came in, as forcing Obito to jump away. Obito Mangeto then came alive as he seemed to walk right through Daibatsu like he wasn't even there. Daibatsu, eyes wide and his sword was about to pierce right his back, but a hand grabbed the blade, shattering to dust. As Naruto drive his blade right through Obito's heart, as he ignited into flames. As Naruto let out a blood-curdling scream, seeing his brother just burn. Memories of his father's death, his village massacre, his people, Yaiko and Kiyotsuki's death was haunting his heart. He had to move in and save Daibatsu, but he felt like he was the one that was burning. Nagato gathered a few Uzumakis and they formed the 4-barrier seal, trapping Obito and Tobirama. It was then a bright flash happened. None of them could react in time as Daibatsu was smashed with a Rasengan as Minato flashed away in a bright flash. Daibatsu, Naruto said, as Naruto caught him. Get him to medical now, he said, as he looked over to the man. They just quickly came over and grabbed him as they headed off in top speed, holding him. It was then that Naruto felt a large explosion of chakra, wood style, secret technique, nativity of a sea of trees. An entire forest emerged right in front of his eyes. It was a massacre. Thousands upon thousands of his men and women scream out in pain and agony as the branches rip right through them, shredding them like they were nothing. As Minato kept on butchering shinobis before they could even blink, Hiruzen kept on using his staff to smash their head in. It was a massacre. Never had Naruto felt so outclassed and helpless. These were no man, they were gods. He was the one that killed Madara, but the man was old, and he was barely able to give a good fight. Watching Hashirama and Hiruzen and Minato made him see one thing clearly. His army could not stand against these gods. Not could he himself. They were simply too powerful. The fact was even made clearer when Minato flashed behind the Kazekage and carved the man from top to bottom with one strike. As their leader fell, the Sand Ninja started to run, but it was helpless as Minato chased them down and slashed them down. Nagato said Naruto. As Nagato looked at his friend, keep the army together. Naruto then blinked away in a dark flash as he emerged right behind Minato. As Naruto grabbed onto him and both of them vanished together. Naruto then flashed two more times, grabbing Hiruzen and Hashirama and flashing away. As he appeared and slammed them down right beside Orochimaru. It was then that Jiraiya, Kisame, Galatea, Hanzo, and Tsunade all jumped into the fray as Naruto went through hand sign 4 red yang formation as he slammed his hand on the ground. As a massive barrier came up, it ate through his reserves a lot, but he saw through Madara's memory. This thing was even powerful enough to hold that 10-tailed beast. That was how Madara described it. So yeah, it could hold them. As Naruto did not look back, as Tsunade started to heal him, because he knew the others outside would tell him to let them in, Konan, Nagato, so that they could fight, but this was too dangerous. Jiraiya was even pissed off. Whatever sympathy he had left in his heart, it gone. With these reanimations, Hanzo, Galatea, and Kisame were standing around them as Tsunade healed Naruto. What's the plan? Kisame said and grinned, as he doesn't seem effective at all. Naruto gave Tsunade a thankful nod as he got to his feet. Edo Tensei is a kenjutsu that used a living vessel to revive a dead soul back into the living world. Tobirama was the one who created it, but even he could not perfect it. It's possibly one of the most well-guarded secrets of Konoha, Naruto said. And how do you know this? Jiraiya asked. With a small frown. He was supposed to be the one in charge of these intels and all that, but he didn't know. My spies are everywhere, said Naruto. And that was all he was going to say about that. Can it be broken or countered, or better yet, can we kill them? They cannot be killed, said Naruto, as he looked at Kisame. The only way to stop this is to force Orochimaru to release their souls, send them back to the afterlife. If you kill him, it will not be broken. That settles it then, since you're the only one that knows so much, and you can force Orochimaru to break this. We will make sure you reach him at all costs. As Naruto looked back, the others outside, Tobirama was also trapped. That meant their forces could defeat the other army outside. Naruto, he looked up at Galatea. Make our sacrifice count, she said. As he nodded, knowing that any one of them could die at any moment against these powerful ninjas. He glanced at the scroll that was on his hip, before looking back at Galatea and the others. I promise I'll stop him no matter what, he said. When they all stepped forward, Orochimaru simply smiled. Done your little chat, he asked. If you were smart, then you wouldn't have let that happen, said Naruto, making Orochimaru laugh. The conspiracy of weak little runs do not scare me, because it doesn't matter what you do, none of you are strong enough. Kisame speed through hand sign before releasing mist that covered the entire area. Orochimaru commanded his puppies to prepare for attack. Hashirama charged, because the mist will not stop his power of sensing. That was until Orochimaru felt something grab Hashirama from behind and threw him towards the barrier. Hiruzen moved to counter, but he was surrounded in a dark purple smoke screen. But before he went down, he relayed the information back to Orochimaru. It was a large purple chameleon going around. A summon? Tsunade was on top of the summon-like creature, which was sporting a lot of chakra, as Jiraiya and Galatea moved towards Hashirama. But Naruto or Kisame were nowhere to be seen or felt. Orochimaru's eyes then snapped as he raised the Kusanagi blade and blocked Samihata. They were mere inches away from carving each other out. Then Kisame saw something that made him shock. Orochimaru passed right through him and slashed him right in the back. He spun around to cut off his head, but his blade clashed against Naruto's. Like your dead brother eyes, Naruto-kun, asked Orochimaru with a laugh, as Naruto did not look into Orochimaru's eyes that were now the Mangekyo Sharingan of Obito's. Not only did the bastard survive the wounds from the last battle, but now he had stolen Obito's eyes? But out of the corner of his eye, Naruto noticed that they were different in shape. It could be one of the other Uchihas. As Naruto heard that he was fighting alongside two Uchihas, Itachi and Shisui, having already seen Obito's ability, that was really dangerous, but he knew not what the other one did, so he had to keep his senses up and ready for anything. Nor could he dare to look at his face or wrist, open himself up for anything. As Naruto jumped away, Orochimaru smirked. Now it begins. It ends here, Orochimaru. The both of them charged forward as they started to clash their blades against each other with ferocious strikes. As Naruto flashed behind Orochimaru, he's fast, Orochimaru said, but Naruto's sword went right through him. Dark release, illusions, Naruto said. He tore through Orochimaru's mental barriers as he invaded Orochimaru's mind, and what he saw make his entire world shatter into pieces. Meanwhile, at the medical tent, Akainu could only cry, because when they got here with him it was too late, as Daibatsu already bled out, and she could only cry. So many of their friends have already fallen in war, and she could only cry. Meanwhile, the other side of the battlefield, it was another death after another death, as Nagato was seeing everything around him. Daibatsu was cut down. The Hokages were over there in that barrier with his friend. Could they even win? Nagato, do not fall down on me right now. You're the Union leader if you fall. Everything was for naught, and Daibatsu's death was for nothing. I came here with 7 friends, and now I just got 4 left. Can we survive this dark night? We have to. He looked at her. She lost those 3 people to her. They grew up with her, Kiyotsuke, Daibatsu, and Yaiko. Why, he said. She then touched her belly. He looked at her strangely. 4. Your godson, she said. It was then he focused the sensor's power. He could feel it. A small flicker. She was pregnant with Naruto's child. His heart got determined. There was something for him to fight for. A baby on the way. For him to make sure that baby will see a peaceful future. Meanwhile, Orochimaru stared at Naruto as he screamed in agony. Because this scream was of pure heartbreak. Your entire life was a lie, Uzumaki Naruto. Your beloved village. They forcefully stole you from your parents, raised you to become a soldier. They took you away. You started this war for nothing. It was only me and Gonzo who stopped the message from reaching Konoha, and we slaughtered every one of them that tried to get past the border. We were the ones that were doing the experiments, but yet you start a war for nothing against Konoha. You hold grief and agony in your heart for so long time, and yet still your parents loved you, and they wanted to take you with them. They wanted to hold you, but they couldn't. They were forced to give you up, and yet you hate them for so long. Your brother, you lost him as well, the one that you came to hate, but he risked his own life for you. This is the reality of your life. This is what your life is, nothing but a big lie. As Naruto just saw the memory of the second Uzumaki taking him away from his broken mother and his father, while Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, along with Hiruzen, watched, he remembers seeing the memory of only Danzo and Orochimaru plotting. Thousands die, families dying, growing up that way, becoming hated, being known as a bastard. Everything hit him. What did the rebellion truly lead to? Everyone now out there fighting. They're all going to die for just a simple lie. As Orochimaru picked up his sword and started to walk around Naruto, just one blow would end this all. But there was still more fun to be had. Lord Fort, the king of the north, a man of honor, Orochimaru laughed. Naruto. Naruto is my name, Naruto whispered. Is that truly your real name, or is that a lie as well? Do you even know who you are, boy? All you ever spread in this world was pain and suffering. I am a monster, but I don't shy away from what I really am. But you live such a magnificent and grand lie. It really amused me, Orochimaru said with a chuckle. Orochimaru went through hand signs and mist, started to disappear. And what Naruto saw shattered what little strength he had left. Hanzo lied flat in a pool of his own blood. His salamander summon not there anymore. Jiraiya was on his knees, panting and bleeding heavily, as Galtia and Tsunade guarded him, but the two Hokages raining on them for the final blow. As Naruto glanced outside where he saw Nagato and Konan were fighting the enemy forces from reaching Obito and the second Hokage. They had lost as well, right? They had sacrificed as well, right? But they were still standing, they were still fighting. Orochimaru brought down his sword as Jiraiya's eyes went wide, but it was blocked. What? Said Orochimaru as Naruto blocked his blade with his own. Indeed, my life turned out to be a lie. I did a lot of horrible things, and that is lying on my shoulders right now. But Orochimaru's eyes went wide and a punch smashed into his gut that sent him sailing away. These people who followed for me, these people who went with me, these people who battled with me, these people who were at my side, these people, they're still not giving up. They're still fighting to the bitter end. So who the hell am I to give up? And I believe in them and all their dreams. I will never give up. As Jiraiya was shocked. All of his life he thought that Minato was going to change the world. But he could see it now, it was his elder son. It was Naruto Uzumaki. Even if his life is a giant lie, he didn't waver. He was going to fight for himself. He was going to fight for everyone he loved and protect them all. You, Orochimaru said, I am Naruto Uzumaki, the king of the north, and this is my choice. In the blink of an eye, the Hokages and Minato appear around Naruto, but he simply smiled. As in a flash, two Naruto appear behind Hiruzen and Minato. Impossible, Jiraiya said. Rasengan! As a ball of dark energy ripped their body to shreds. In a flash of darkness, Hoshirama was stabbed right through the heart as seals started to spread across his body. 2. Naruto then appeared in the seal along with Obito and Tobirama and grabbed them. As Orochimaru then dashed forward in his blind rage to kill Naruto, going through everything with Obito's eye as he slid forward. But Naruto flipped a kunai behind him. As Orochimaru had Shisui's eye, which he used to instantly teleport right in front of Naruto. As he was about to kill Naruto, but then Naruto appeared above him, grabbing the three-pronged kunai. Rasengan, he said. Orochimaru twisted head just in time, but the jutsu connected with his left shoulder, as Orochimaru screamed in pain and agony as he was blown down with great force. As he crashed across the field, his blood, gore spreading everywhere across the dirt, as he howled in pain. Before he could blink, another three-pronged kunai appeared in front of him as Naruto grabbed it and sliced. Orochimaru screamed as he could not see anything anymore. His eyes were sliced out. No! He screamed. Orochimaru was feeling true fear as he searched for his eyes on the ground that were brutally slashed out by Naruto. As Naruto looked to see his clones had bound themselves to the reanimated shinobi, making them immobile for the moment. As Naruto glanced at the scroll on his hip, he thought he would have been forced to use it to stop the trembling man in front of him. But in the end, Kisame was right. This Edo Tensei that was used was not perfect. Orochimaru did not revive them at their full power. He managed to reanimate them at barely half their strength, barely. Not bad for a first try, it's such a dangerous jutsu, but it worked in Naruto's favor. Because it was thanks to that why Naruto and the others would be able to live today. As Naruto then placed a hand on Orochimaru's head, making him go still. As Orochimaru then slowly started to go through hand signs. As the bodies of his father, his younger brother, and the Hokage started to glow. As the Hokages disappeared, his father and half-brother remained as he looked at him with a smile on their faces. As Naruto bowed in front of them with tears in his eyes. Thank you, he said. Please look out for me and don't harm my village people anymore, brother. Obito requested. I promise, Naruto said. The two brothers stared at each other for the first time in their life without hate in their eyes. I will never forget what you did for me, Obito. And I'm truly sorry for all the pain I put you through. You're not that bad after all. Who knew the White Wolf was a soft heart? Said Obito. Wait for me, brother. Maybe someday, Naruto said. As Obito smiled, yeah, someday. Until then, he said, as he stuck his finger out, giving Naruto a thumbs up. As his body vanished. As Naruto turned, Father, His body was withering away. Minato stepped forward, as he embraced Naruto into a hug. It is not who we are, but it's what we do that plays our feet. You put aside your hatred, your anger, you rose above it. And your desire, your goal to change this world. It is coming true. It is your responsibility now to keep the peace. But I believe that you will fulfill it, no matter what. You're my son after all, he said, a proud smile on his face. Keep on believing, and never give up. I will, father, Naruto said. As Minato smiled, make sure to give me many grandchildren, he said, and look after your mother. As Naruto tearfully nodded. Live with your honor, Naruto Uzumaki. As Minato vanished, as Naruto turned his head to see Hanzo breathing harshly, Tsunade gave him a nod. He was alive. As her medical ninjutsu was going to work. So how about it, said Kisame, as he raised Samihata. As Naruto looked at him, he remembered what Kisame told him. If he would just slice off Orochimaru's head, all of this would be fine. But this was up to him, Naruto said. As he raised his blade, for all that you have done, I sentence you to death, Orochimaru. As he drove his blade down straight in the man's skull, green fire enveloped Orochimaru's entire body, roasting him alive, and therefore ending the Third Great Shinobi War. Time skip, 16 years later, heavy snow bathed the large land, covering everything in their white glory. The folks of this land was used to a tougher life than most. It was the reason why a large part of the world's strongest ninjas and forces hail from these covered snowlands. This place was peaceful as they never suffered attack from any other. They have been at total peace. The reason now was right in front of him. Nagato smiled as he spotted that dire wolf flag flying high on top of the tallest, most strongest castle in the world, the Wolfenstein. Its literal meaning was Castle of the Wolf. Several tall towers, high walls, protected by the most best sealing arts. As this was the home of his best friend, his brother, in all but blood, and he was meeting him after 7 long years. God, it has been so long since he saw the fool. That honorable fool. Father, I see a party approaching. Looks like a armed group. He looked at a young 14-year-old boy with red hair and brown eyes, as he had a bow and arrow in his hand, and he was one of the best sharpshooters in the world. You know what to do, Kiyasuke, said Nagato. His elder son signaled his own armed forces to follow after him. Together, a party of 30 Union forces charged on, while Nagato remained behind with the rest of his family and several guards. Damn, it is cold out here. Don't these people freeze or something? Whined a feminine voice. Despite her heavy winter clothing, she was still shaking. Unlike her older brother, she had light brown hair, but she had the same chocolate brown eyes. Kazumi-chan, don't be rude. It is just winter here is a little harsh. But nothing a strong young kunoichi like you cannot handle, said Rin. Fine, said Kazumi, but I'm still pissed at that idiot. Couldn't he have arrived a little earlier? You know he's not someone that you can order around, right? Said Kurenai Uzumaki, as she smiled over at her father. Kazumi ignored her older sister. Being the youngest suck. Barely, even younger than perfect Kurenai or ever serious Kiyasuke. Honestly, both of them were too uptight and reserved. Maybe there's 2 years of staying in this ever goddamn cold nation made them that way. Thankfully, she had better luck as she stayed and lived in Kiri. Part of the union their father ruled, he sent them out to learn new things. And Mei Sama had been so nice, teaching her all the things of a strong kunoichi and how to woo the boys. But the one person she actually liked was even more uptight than everyone else. Rin chuckled at her daughter bicker as she watched Nagato smiling at them. That sight warmed her heart, because he was always busy, always remaining professional and guarded. He was just 32 and you could see the bags under his eyes, and his once bright red hair seemed to have lost some of its shine. But it was because of that made peace all over the land for the last 16 years. As Ren smiled, remembering the day that a wounded officer was brought into the hospital, and to think that one day that man would become her husband. Nagato had received dozens upon dozens of marriage proposals from across the world due to his status as union leader, but he avoided them. The nightmares of the wars and the friends that he lost haunt him every day. But with Ren, he could talk to her, sit with her, and Ren listened to him. This man, despite everything, got up every day and performed one of the most hardest jobs, and she ended up falling in love with him. And together, they were now the parents of 3 beautiful children and 16 happy years of marriage. Her thoughts were stopped as they heard horses. She noticed both of her daughters blush, and she knew who caused that reaction. It was a young 16-year-old boy riding on top of his black dire wolf, his bright red hair and streaks of blue in his hair as well, with his amber eyes staring back at them. It was Prince Yaiko Uzumaki, eldest son of the White Wolf. There was a smile on his face, as that made Kurenai Uzumaki blush deepen. But Kazumi, she was glaring at the other boy following, the young prince, Minato Uzumaki, second and third child of the White Wolf. He was a completely different person than his older brother. Minato had inherited pale silver hair and stark blue eyes from his parents, as he was known to be one of the best Fuinjutsu masters in the world, despite just being 14-year-old, as Yaiko was a master swordsman, having been trained by Kisame and White Wolf himself. Minato was known for his stealth, having going into a camp of missing ninjas and erasing all of them without even making a single alarm raise. Yaiko was charming, easygoing and quite jovial, and Minato always brooded. Maybe it was because he stayed in the sand for 2 years. Maybe that's how he got up that brooded personality. But both boys were loyal to each other through and through, and it showed as Minato rode on his brown dire wolf. Despite there being no threat there, he watched his brother back. As the two groups finally met, as Yaiko walked forward and kneel right in front of Nagato, and the others did the same. On gaining the permission, Yaiko got up. "You're still in black," as Yaiko simply chuckled as he hugged his uncle. "Nagato-sama, it's an honor to have you in the north. Our family will welcome you happily," said Minato, offering a perfect bow. "He will make a good clan leader," thought Nagato as he gently ruffled the boy's hair. "Relax, Minato. You're my godson too. No need to be so formal." "Don't try. He's always like this," said Yaiko. As Minato brooded, "Damn, he looks so much like a brute in Naruto," thought Nagato in surprise. Kazumi then walked up and bumped Minato on the head. "Hey, you didn't come for the summer festival in Konoha," said Kazumi. "I was busy," said Minato. "With what?" "Duties." "Duties my ass," she said. But Minato simply nodded, as that just made her even more pissed, as Rain went over and separated the both of them, as Yaiko thanked her. The both of them were always like this, at each other's throats. Moments later, as they entered the castle, Nagato walked up as he embraced the woman standing there in a fierce hug. She had changed quite a lot over the years, considered to be one of the most beautifulest women in the world, with her flawless curves and her bright, beautiful silver hair. Akeno Uzumaki still managed to make many men weak on their knees even after the birth of her children, but she still had that kind in nature, as there was a little boy right in front of her, 5 years old, as she picked him up in her arms. They had heard about him, but they had not seen him until now. But one look at him, with mixed red and blue hair, bright blue eyes. Obito Uzumaki was the young son of the king, youngest. Even though his mother was Kona, the little boy buried his head right in Akeno's chest, hiding his face when she tried to introduce him. "Stop acting so girly." Akeno turned as she looked at her 9-year-old daughter, Ayeno. Just as Nagato had predicted, his friend did had 5 children from his 2 wives. With Konan he had 3, and with Akeno he had 2. "Obi, it's okay. Ace, father's best friend, Uncle Nagato." 14-year-old Yuna Uzumaki, crown princess and second child of the king, gracefully took her younger brother. As she walked towards Nagato, she had blue hair. Just say she was Konan, because she was a perfect replica, but there were also strong gazes. It was from her father's side, from the way she took care of her siblings and cared for them and held them. But the boy did not turn around and greet them. He was just too shy. "Welcome to our home, Nagato-sama," said Yuna. Yaiko was the eldest, the prince of the north. Yuna was the second child, the princess of the north. Minato was the third, the heir of Uzo and the only son of Naruto and Akeno. Ayeno was the fourth, heiress of Uzo, and the only daughter of Naruto and Akeno. And Obito was the fifth and last child, the second, prince of the north, from Konan and Naruto. He had shown himself to be a promising censor, even though he hasn't even started his training yet. "Quite a brute you have here," said Nagato with a smile. Akeno laughed. "Don't let their innocent smile fool you. They're a real pain in the ass, every single one of them," she said, as all of them huffed. "So where is he?" asked Nagato. "Where do you think?" she asked, as he was led there. As he finally saw him, after 7 long years, standing 6 foot tall, he was in his winter clothes, his bright red hair reaching down to his neck, as he had a full beard. The 33-year-old Naruto Uzumaki, king of the north, smiled. Standing beside him was a woman with tall blue hair, as she was in her winter clothes as well, as her golden eyes stared back at him kindly. As Naruto came forward and hugged his friend, A lone tear falls from Nagato's eye as he embraced his best friend. They would have stayed like that for God knows long until they were interrupted by a light cough. Careful, Nagato. Try not to steal my husband, said Konan, making Akino laugh. You know, there was a time when I thought that they were gay and infatuated with each other, Akino teased with a smirk. We're just friends, Naruto said. That's a pity because the two of you would have made a good couple. The fierce North leader, along with the reserve Union leader. Maybe I should write a book. It would sell quite well with the female population. Book me a copy in advance, said Akino. Stop it, you two, said Nagato. As Konan sighed, she came forward as she wrapped him in a tight hug as well. You've gotten even thinner than last time, and what's with the tired look and bag under your eyes? It's nothing to worry about, he said, as Akino bumped him on the head. I told you to not overwork yourself, I swear. You and your idiot friend standing here don't know when to relax. Come, let's get to the grand feast, to make you put some more weight on, so you don't look like a mummy anymore. As he looked to Naruto for help as the girls were dragging him away. Even you know it's pointless to argue with them. It's pointless to argue with a wife, and I have two, so I'll keep myself quiet, said Naruto, as he turned to see the two look in their eyes. Moments later, that's too much. Oh come on, I just ate that a few minutes ago. As Konan and Naruto chuckled as they saw Kushina and Akito forcefully feeding Nagato, as Rin also sat there with a smile, as the two Uzumaki women forcefully feed him, as the children went off to go to the Daibatsu Town Winter Festival, as Kisame was standing there, a guard, as Naruto loyal guard for over years now, and considered to be a great swordsman in every art same way, and he even teach the king's children. After a while, things settled down. So, how is Navi and Jiraiya? I heard that they had another son recently, said Kushina. Yes, they did. We thought it would be impossible considering both of them are quite old now. But it happened. The Senju clan now has two males and a female as well, to continue the line, and Tsunade-sama has done well in rebuilding their nation and protecting her people over these years, said Ren. As Naruto smiled, looking over at his mother, she has gotten old as well, but the Uzumaki genes were very strong. She had been here protecting, raising his family as well, taking care of the kids. She just loved it. All of the tail beasts had disappeared after the war. The only one that was remaining was the 9 tails inside of Kushina, as no one knew where they went. There had been attempts to search for them, but that was all placed to a stop, as Naruto has not said a single word on this topic, and no one was willing to go up against him, or, well, they can't force him to talk. The next day, the atmosphere was quite tense, as a group of civilians were there. On the other side stood a lone Zetsu informant that told the king, "Tell me," Naruto ordered. As everyone was there, Nagato and his children and everyone, Naruto and his children as well. "The claims are true, my lord," said Zetsu. Gato was forcefully taking over their land. There was a dozen unmarked graves. There's a small group of thugs and mercenaries keeping control over there. They did rape a few women, and they destroyed the only bridge that connects the way to the south. One of the civilians, Tazuna, stepped forward with his small grandson in his arm. Gato has the contacts and the money to escape from anything that he do to my people. We barely managed to escape and come here on boats because you're the only leader that can save us from this tyrant. Naruto will personally push this matter to the Union Court. Justice shall be delivered, said Nagato. And how many more weeks will that take? How many people will suffer and die because of a bunch of politics bickering, said Naruto. He then closed his eyes. As he then heard the boy spoke, the young little boy, "Please, save my mother. They already killed my dad," in ear whispered. As Naruto opened his eyes, "I cannot give you back what you lost or bring your dead back to life, but I can give you justice in the name of the Union. Yaiku, Minato." Konan and Akino watched as their son stepped forward. "I charge you to bring the Union justice towards Gato and all of his accomplices. I denounce him. I hereby strip him of all of his wealth, all of his privilege, all of his lands and his properties." As Tazuna and Inoue couldn't believe what they heard, "And I sentence him to death. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the King of the North, Guardian of the Union, and this is my story." But yeah guys, this is where this story comes to a final end. I really hope that you guys enjoy this, and yeah, don't be sad because you already know that new what ifs are coming very soon for you guys to enjoy. So just sit back and relax. But I'm off now. Peace.